How sweet was that opening?
I think we're about to get sued, Jason. That's what I think.
No, it's all in good fun. Well, it's fair use. We're providing commentary. We're not trying to sell it as our own show. I mean,
It's true.
I
It's
think
true.
I
It
think
was
we're
cool
okay.
though. It was pretty
It was
cool.
cool, man. I mean, Stranger Things. We're recording this. A few days after Stranger Things season 5 has dropped. I know you haven't gotten a chance to watch it yet, so we won't have any spoilers
Oh,
in this
great. Just
episode.
yeah, just let the whole world know that Morgan is not caught up on the most important American cultural phenomenon since sliced bread.
I'm not even going to tell you that 11 died. I won't even mention it. I promise.
So spoilers, guys. If you haven't
I'm
seen the
kidding.
most
I'm
important
kidding.
cultural phenomenon since sliced, well, that's not true. It's probably the most important cultural phenomenon since Endgame. That's probably more
That
accurate.
that's probably fair, and it is a cultural phenomenon. And before I forget, welcome to the cast backstage banter. I'm one of your hosts, Jason Saris,
And I'm Morgan Elgarden.
and today we are giving you a bonus episode. This is off cycle, so we appreciate you checking it out. Stranger Things is just such a big deal in modern pop culture that it felt like it needed its own type of thing. So thanks for checking it out. And Morgan, I think to your point, it is a big cultural moment, probably the biggest event since Endgame. And I want to explore why that is, because it is really interesting to me that people still get very excited for a show, because it used to be a thing. It used to be like, guys, Lost is on, or that new episode of Walking Dead is coming out, and people would
Yeah.
be very focused on checking it out and talking about it. And then we saw that all kind of fizzle away. So, yeah,
I
I thought
think
we
it
could explore that briefly.
yeah, I think it depends on um obviously how popular a series is. And I think that that excitement happens with other series. It's just sort of a smaller blip in the grander scheme of things because it's only going to be important to that fandom. But Stranger Things seems to be big enough where the fandom is encompassing of everyone. So it becomes this, oh, did you see? Oh, did you catch it? Oh, it just came out. Which, if you have been living under a rock, like apparently I have been, the fifth season, which has been eagerly anticipated for what is
A
it
long
now? A
time.
couple years? A couple
Yeah, I
years
think
at
it's been
this
like
point, I think.
3 years or something crazy since the last one.
So the
These kids are all
so
walking
the
around
fifth
like these kids are all walking around like 30-year-olds, and they're playing, middle school, high school students now.
Yeah,
It's
which
it's wild.
which I do want to talk about, but yeah, it's been a while, but the fifth season just dropped this past Thursday. So we are recording this episode on November 29th of 2025. The season dropped on the 25th, and this episode is airing sometime after that.
So you mentioned that, there's been other shows that have done this. What comes to mind for you? Like, what is it that you think has been what are some examples of ones that have had this cultural event type of momentum prior to
That are
Stranger
like
Things?
that are big enough that could be compared to Stranger Things in recent history. I would say like
Sure.
Big Bang Theory was probably up there. How I Met Your
I don't
Mother
think Big
was
Bang Theory.
probably
No
up there.
way. I don't
Big
think
Bang
either of
Theory,
those.
I don't think look, I it Big Bang Theory, the cast of Big Bang Theory made I'm not all of them, but the top earners on that show, which I think were the actors who played Sheldon, um, Penny,
Leonard.
and Leonard, all made 1 million an episode.
Sure.
And this was a show that was, in my opinion, like properly syndicated, meaning it had 20 to 26 episodes per season. So for that last season, they were making $20 million a season.
Sure.
That you can't pay that amount of money unless you pull in a substantial amount. So
But
I we could definitely
that's not what I'm talking about though. I mean, Big Bang Theory, I never understood why it was as popular as it was. It was a popular show. I will give you that. But I don't think
at
anybody
one
was
point it
like,
was the most
guys,
viewed series.
this And sure, and that's fine. But it wasn't an event. Like there was nobody like, guys, we have to get home by 8 o'clock to or whatever time it was on. We have to get home by this time to turn on Big Bang Theory. The new Big Bang Theory's out. Did you watch the new Big Bang Theory? Oh man, did you see what happened on Big? That was never a thing with that show. Nor was it maybe with How I Met Your Mother towards the end when you were finally gonna figure out who the mother was. Maybe there's a little bit of
Hmm.
that. I don't even think that counts. To me, I think that the event shows were things like Lost, where people were like, I got to get my seat for when this show starts. I need to watch it as it airs because, like, I got questions, I need answers, and I had to wait for the next one. So I think Lost was one. Breaking Bad maybe was one. Walking Dead before it got terrible was one. Those are shows that I think were cultural events. You had people talking about the buzz before it aired, after it aired. Nobody was talking about Big Bang Theory outside of the episode. I mean, like, it was a good time and people would watch it and people
Maybe
enjoyed it, but I don't
maybe
think
we
it
run
was
in maybe we run in different circles because my opinion of a cultural event or a cultural phenomenon is popularity. Like
sure.
whether or not something is in the cultural zeitgeist is if people know about it and people talk about it. And Big Bang Theory was very popular. Like I said,
It
it
was
was at
popular,
one
but I don't
point it
think
was the
anybody was
most watched
waiting on
show.
it. But
I don't
nobody
know,
was
like
waiting.
every I it's hard because with it's a difficult comparison because with Stranger Things, we have collectively waited years at this point for the
Yeah,
next season. With Big Bang Theory, it released every week. New episode every Thursday, new
sure.
episode every Friday, or whenever it released, unless there was a hiatus between seasons. And when you come back for a season, that's an exciting moment. But the buildup, what there's not as much buildup with things that release on a steady schedule as with this. So I think that there is some level of anticipation that has been built up over time that you don't get with a regularly syndicated show.
I just don't think I don't think popularity is the end all be all. I think that being in the zeitgeist uh, has levels, and there's nobody. I don't think you can. I think you can walk outside and you can ask anybody if they've heard of Stranger Things, and I think you're going to be hard pressed to find somebody that has not heard of it. I think you could walk outside and ask people if they've heard of Big Bang Theory, and you would find somebody that's like, I don't know, I'm not sure. You mean like the thing
Get in
that
the comments,
is like a
guys.
science thing?
Get in the comments.
Yeah, seriously.
That's a
If
wild
tell us,
that is a wild claim, Jason. The most
no
at
way.
one point, this was the most watched show in America. So, I mean, unless you're talking global audience, that is a claim.
But nobody was clamoring for it the same way. I don't know, and maybe the audience should tell us because maybe you're right, and maybe it's just I wasn't in that circle. But I find it hard to believe that Big Bang Theory was ever in the same sort of anticipated, had the same kind of momentum, anxious, waiting on the edge of your seat for the next episode type of momentum that Stranger Things has had.
I think that every show here I just sort of disagree at a base level because
I've noticed.
shows shows are going to have that impact on their fans. Period. If you watch a show with any sort of fervency or ferocity, then you are eagerly anticipating the next episode, whenever that is, whatever the show. I
No,
and
I the
Stranger Things is just has a fan base that is encompassing of everyone, which is also an overstatement because I know people personally who either have never seen Stranger Things or don't like it.
But
Like,
I think the difference is yes, people that are fans of show are always interested in the next episode. But you can watch a show. I watch Friends religiously. And even when it was on and I hadn't seen the next episode, there was never a outside of maybe an episode or two, there was never like a oh my gosh, I can't wait for the next one. Like I need to know what happens. not like that. And I think the difference is Stranger Things is everywhere. You got them on products. They're on Eggo waffles. They're on cookies. They're on television. They're on radio ads. It's everywhere. It's all over my social media feed. Big Bang Theory was never everywhere. You would see
Okay.
it a couple of places. It was
I
never everywhere all at one
disagree.
time.
Big Bang was on freaking bus stops, but that's beside the point. So then what about something like Squid Games?
Squid Games, I do think was a big event. I don't think it was the level of Stranger Things, but I do think Squid
That's
Games.
wild. That's wild, dude. They have interactive experiences of Squid Games where you can go and play the Squid Games. Like, what are you
Okay,
talking about?
so what are you defining it as? Just as popularity? Are you arguing that Squid Game was more popular than Stranger Things?
I don't think that Squid Games was more popular than Stranger Things. I think that as far as like a cultural phenomenon goes, because like maybe I'm struggling to understand what you mean because it seems to me that you're defining a cultural phenomenon by like everybody cares about it,
I'm
which
just talking
does
about it
boil
as an
down.
event. When a show comes out, because like you pointed to Endgame earlier, and Endgame I think is another good example. Like everybody was waiting on it. Everybody went and saw it. People were waiting to like for the moment you could watch it, and then they wanted to consume it as soon as possible. That is an event. Like everybody does it as a communal experience. They're happening together. Stranger Things I also think is like that. Squid Game I think did that too. I don't remember seeing Squid Game, and maybe this is I haven't watched Squid Game, full disclosure, but maybe
That's
this is also
wild,
because
dude.
I wasn't in that circle either. But I don't remember it. I saw things on social media for it. It didn't consume everything around me like Stranger Things did. Like
It's
this was
weird
things like I
because
had people messaging me like, "Did you see the trailer? Did you watch the episode?" Like people I haven't talked to in a year were asking me if I had thoughts on what they just saw on Stranger Things. Like that's a different thing to me than, hey, Penny and Leonard are together. Like nobody messaged me for that. Nobody.
well, Penny and Leonard also got together like 8 times, but that's a separate.
You know what I'm saying though? Like it didn't mean as much because it was just, you're watching it and like those ups and downs people enjoy as a viewer, but I don't think it was like a cultural experience. And I have theories about why this has permeated our culture so much, and maybe that'll help kind of paint a picture as to why I think
Yeah,
this is different than
let's
maybe.
hear let's hear your theories because I disagree just face value that Stranger Things is this um like Herculean figure in the media landscape because like Stranger Things I think is up there. Anything Marvel is up there.
And
Anything like that has strong IP, like Wicked. Dude, Wicked was so hotly anticipated. So
true.
let's talk about this theory that you have.
So I have a few, but I will say you mentioned Marvel, and I do think Marvel was an event at some point when they would release a new movie. Everyone was like, "Gotta go see the Marvel movie." I think that's petered off quite a bit, and people talk about different reasons that happened. But Endgame, I think, to what you pointed to, was a big example of like this was a huge cultural phenomenon. So to kind of set the stage a little bit, Stranger Things was the first Netflix produced hit because they had their own shows and they had a couple other hits that were exclusive to Netflix like House of Cards or Orange is the New Black, but those were shows that were produced outside and then purchased by Netflix. So Netflix had their first like foray into developing and producing and like totally making in house. It was Stranger Things. And this was a show that was long time in the works. The Duffer Brothers had this idea a long time ago. They wanted to build it off of things that they admired about Spielberg and Stephen King, and we can get into the history of how that show was developed if you want. But I think what's important is that we have seen over the last few years that there is less and less original IPs. We see a lot of things that are just rehashes of reboots or sequels or legacy sequels. And this was something that came out that was a unique idea. But where I think it differs is that it plays on the nostalgia and familiarity of a lot of things that were important to
Sure.
people as they were growing up. You have a
Yeah,
lot of
setting it in the
elements of
80s,
like,
I think, was definitely a smart move.
for sure. And the the reason why is because you have millennials, which this is kind of their time, that they have organic nostalgia for, because it was what millennials grew up in, a lot, at least the older side of millennials. But the other part is that Gen Z has an affinity for nostalgic periods because they grew up in a weird digital age where you can't trust a lot of the stuff you had there. And if you look at any kind of like marketing research, Gen Z gravitates towards nostalgia and like things that are of a simpler time. And I think that those combinations of like appealing to those two audiences with a unique property that harkens back to the things that we loved about those times, like a feel good Steven Spielberg movie. I mean, the first season of Stranger Things is basically E.T. I mean, 11 is
Sure.
basically E.T. I mean, think about
Yeah,
it. You got a
I
small
can
boy
see
who
it.
befriends like an alien type kid, and she's not an alien, but like it has like similar type of things to it. She loves Eggo
Do you know what's
waffles.
weird?
Et loved
Wait,
Reese's
hold on.
Pieces. Like
Hold on. Wait a
it's like a
second.
thing.
Do you know what's do you know what's weird? My I'm so curious what people thought in the comments when Jason said that, because I'm like low key kind of on board with the ET analogy, but it's so funny because I didn't jump to 11 being like the ET stand-in. I jumped to Dusty befriending the
The
what are they
Demodog
called? I forget what they're called. Yeah, the demagogue. Like
from season 2,
that's what I jumped to.
which which was another example of that. That was second season. First season, I feel like 11 was that. I mean, you have E.T. was a movie about a small kid showing an alien his way of life and like the simple his likes and dislikes and exposing him to like kid culture. And the first season of Stranger Things is the same thing, only it's with a child that has been so secluded her whole life that she doesn't have that knowledge of being a kid. So it's she's not an alien, but it is the same type of story unfolding. And then in season 2, to your point, you do it again, but now it's with Dustin and the Demodog, who's got this like little creature that he's befriended, and But I think that like there's a familiarity to that, and we watch that, and we're like, that reminds me of watching E.T. when I was a kid, and it's very much shot like a Spielberg type of movie, So I think that that's the first part is nostalgia. Am I getting any buy-in from you so far?
I mean, I would give heavy pushback to because I brought up Squid Games, and I guess Squid Games has the nostalgia factor of the fact that all of the games are children's games,
Okay.
but I don't know that I would actually classify it as like nostalgia. So I would push back on the nostalgia factor, but continue with your theory. Perhaps it's if it has the collection of these things, then it becomes a cultural
Okay.
phenomenon.
So then the other part, you were talking about Marvel movies, which, superheroes have permeated our culture quite a bit. Because
And
there was a
definitely
time that there
have
were,
nostalgia factor.
it's got a nostalgia factor, but also it's just something that's been in the zeitgeist. And there was a time that superhero movies were hokey and it was for a small demographic, but became very mainstream. Stranger Things, while not a quote unquote traditional superhero, it still has superhero fantastical elements like that. It's grounded in reality, but it has a character that's got supernatural powers, psychic, abilities, and these are things that I still think play off of that high point of Marvel movies when their films were grounded in reality and you're watching this person develop these additional skill sets amongst a collection of other people that don't have that. So as you get that fish out of water story that again harkens back to like when we all loved it, right? Because Marvel's fallen out of favor a bit, and it pulls from that, And now you have two pieces of stuff that you gravitate towards that most shows don't
So
give you one of.
so to recap, as you continue your theory, I'm just recapping for the audience.
Sure, sure.
Cultural phenomenons have nostalgia factor and a supernatural element.
No, I'm not saying this is something that applies to every cultural phenomenon. I'm saying that these are things that I think have made Stranger Things specifically a cultural phenomenon. I think it caught I think it came out at the right time. It marketed to the right audience and it pulled from the right nostalgic elements to make this perfect storm of things that people gravitated towards. It also helps that the story is interesting and well written. It helps that the cast was young characters that you would not expect to be able to hold acting weight the way that they did, because they've been great. I mean, from the beginning they felt like kids, but they carried a heavy load at times within the story. And I think all of these things play on your emotional heartstrings in different ways, because before Netflix picked this up, I mean, the Duffer Brothers were pitching in other places, and people wanted them to change the story. They wanted to make it about Hopper. Like, the kids, nobody's going to care about the kids. Because the kids, like, that's if you either need to make this a children's show or you need to focus it on Hopper. And they didn't want to do that. And Netflix was like, nope, we get it. We see the vision. We want you to do it the way that you want. And they gave the Duffer Brothers full control creatively, which is rare. And you don't see the same stuff from a lot of shows now. The networks get involved, even Netflix. And they dictate what you're going to do and how you're going to approach it and how the story needs to unfold, but they let them do their thing. And I think that worked for the show's benefit, because they had a
Well,
vision and it worked.
Netflix does have a reputation, and studios evolve and change in their approach to the content that they're putting out and their approach to just the business, because let's not forget, this is a business. They make money doing
Sure.
this. But Netflix has garnered a reputation as being a studio that will give you creative license in that way. It's one of the reasons that we got Euphoria in the form that we
Euphoria is
got it.
Euphoria is an HBO show. It's not Netflix.
All right, never mind, scrub that.
And actually, I think
But
Netflix now has the reputation that they do not let people. I mean, at one point, yes, and this again was Netflix's first foray with like a whole building of the production of a show, and I think that they were willing to take that risk because they were making that transition. Because prior to that, they were just buying a show like other networks would. Somebody produced it and they would buy it, and here they were like, we can make this in house. This could be our thing. And they took a risk to say, like, yes, we believe in this project. What you've pitched to us makes sense. We want to own it. We don't want you to go take it somewhere else. Like, we want you to develop it here. We want to produce it. You do it here. We'll give you the creative control to make sure that we get this. And that, I think, was to its benefit.
I think I s- Netflix, I think, is changing, but I still think they have a pretty good reputation in comparison to the other studios of giving creative license to their creators. Like, Wednesday is a very good modern example or current example of that, because there was a lot of tussling with the creative team at large, and the studio was like, "Hey, you guys figure it out. This is your story. We're not going to tell you what to do." So I would push back on Netflix not having that reputation anymore. I think it's changed, but
I
you still, if you stack it up against like Universal or Disney, like they're in there micromanaging everything. I mean,
Disney in particular,
there
yes.
are interviews you
But you
can
and I have
watch
talked
with.
about before. I mean, we know that Netflix has asked its shows to dumb down dialogue because they want it to play in the background. There's a lot of things like that. What's important to Netflix is number of subscribers and
I think
watch
that's a
time.
very, very
So
recent change, and obviously wouldn't affect something
I don't
like
think so.
Stranger Things.
I mean, I think it's been going on for 2-3 years now at least, and I don't think
I
that's
mean,
everything. Like
that's
that may not
recent. I
apply
don't
to
know.
Wednesday. But I mean, there's been two seasons. I mean, now this season and the last season both fall within that range at Netflix. But I don't think that that applied here. I don't think that they gave that instruction to Stranger Things because Duffer Brothers
That's what I
have
mean.
the
Like
control on
it's
this.
a
But that's
yeah.
from from the beginning. I mean, like they got that when they when they first signed the papers to produce there to make the show.
Sure. I mean, getting back to the topic of cultural phenomenon, I obviously agree that Stranger Things is a cultural phenomenon. Uh, I feel like I just want people to weigh in on how big a deal it is because I mean, we saw Stranger Things top out on Netflix's most watched shows when season 5 dropped, and I haven't looked up any of the data, but I'm pretty sure that happened every single time Stranger Things drops. But um I don't know. That was also true of Squid Games. The theaters were jam full when Endgame came out. Um, you know, I I don't know that it's a greater cultural phenomenon than any of these other shows that come out. I think it's more popular. Like I think that more people watch or like Stranger Things than Squid Games. But I don't think that it makes it a greater to the point before where I was saying that it was to some degree popularity. I don't think that a show just being more popular makes it a greater cultural phenomenon. It's a cultural phenomenon, I feel like, is just something that permeates the zeitgeist. It's just something that you could drive down the road and there would be a billboard for it or a bus stop covered in it, like the Big Bang thing. I don't know that I agree with you that Stranger Things is this wild, wacky, out of nowhere. How crazy is it that there's something this popular? Like,
No, I don't know, and I agree. I think that people should weigh in and tell us because I think putting Stranger Things in the same category with Big Bang Theory is the wildest of takes. Like the absolute wildest take you may have had on this show, because I don't think that they
maybe.
compare at all. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but I
I
think
don't know.
that it is very different. Um, as we lose Morgan, are you back?
Tech problems.
There we
Hold
go.
on.
Sounds like a
Okay.
tech
Sorry
problem.
about that. Oh, that's gonna fuck up the recording. Anyway, um, I don't know what you mean by like comparing cultural phenomenons. Like 10 How to Lose a
Again,
Guy in 10 Days was huge when it came out, but
but this is
now it's nobody
no.
talks about it. Like,
No, because so first of all, I mean, one of it I do think, and maybe what you're speaking to is like staying power, which How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days was a popular movie, sure, but to your point, nobody's talking about it now. Stranger Things has been something that people referenced for the last, what is it, 10 years, 6, 7 years? I don't remember when the first season came out, but it's been a while. I think
yeah,
that
I think that that's to
I
some
think that
degree
you
because
have
of
this
meme
connection
culture.
between just something being popular and something being, a cultural phenomenon. When I'm saying cultural phenomenon, it is specifically an event. Like people will rally up together, everybody in unison comes together to go, this thing is happening. We should all partake in it, which I don't think happens with everything. Plenty of stuff is popular. Plenty of stuff. And I don't deny that Big Bang Theory was popular, or How I Met Your Mother, or How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. All those things you mentioned were all popular in
I
their own
mean,
right. But
by
nobody
that,
was like, we need to band together and like, hey, let's talk about this afterwards. I wanna go over what I think is gonna happen and what do you think that means, whatever. And part of that is the storytelling, I think, because it's a serialized show and you get this unraveling of a mystery and lore. Part of that I think is why people do that. But whatever the reason, it is much different than I watched last night's episode. It was good. And that's what
I
Big
don't
Bang Theory
I
was.
see. I don't know that that's literally different than any other show. Like if I watch like if I watch The Big Bang Theory, I'm going to go and talk to other people who watch The Big Bang Theory about The Big Bang Theory. Just like if I watch Stranger Things, I will go and talk to other people who have seen Stranger Things and talk about it.
But
Like you can
everybody
that by
is
that
involved.
definition, literally every Disney movie is a cultural phenomenon. Which I mean, like I guess you could make that argument. Like every
At
single
some point
Disney
it
movie
was.
is kind
I
of
think back in the
a
day it
cultural
was.
phenomenon.
I don't think that it is now. But
So,
there's definitely
but that
something
has
different
nothing to
to Stranger
do
Things.
that has nothing to do with popularity, to your point. That has to do with the fact that every Disney movie is family friendly and is a thing that parents can take their kids to, and then their kids will talk about it at school, and then parents will inevitably talk about it on play dates with the parents of the friends of their kids. Like I genuinely look, maybe I'm hating on Stranger Things, but I don't think it's that
I
different than a majority of media.
I think it absolutely is. And I think that what this comes down to is, I think, we've made a lot of jokes about how, there's a lot of movies you haven't seen. And maybe it's just the way that we consume media that, your process for consuming media doesn't, is different than the way that I
Involve
do.
My process doesn't involve talking to other people, guys. I watch my stuff in seclusion so that I can enjoy it and digest it, figure out the themes and the motifs for myself, and
You
then I
sit,
continue with my day.
Morgan sits in a cave with his bucket of popcorn butter, not the popcorn itself, and a lack of peanut M&Ms because he does not like those, and he consumes his popcorn butter, and he watches his movie, and he will
Uh,
nay discuss it with anybody. That is for his eyes and his eyes only, unless it's Big Bang Theory, and then he will consult a couple people.
As I'm so particular about the consuming of movies, I get like so into it. Like I need to be in a dark room. I need it to be quiet. I actually get wrapped up in stuff the way that people used to in the 80s. I'm not like scrolling on my phone when I'm watching stuff. I am watching my movie.
Well, get to watching Stranger Things because I think we should talk about where we think this is going because I got theories and I don't want to spoil them for you or anybody else, but I think
Yeah.
before the next batch of episodes drop, we should get back together, talk about what we think of the season so far and what we think might be happening with the story. And that one might
Do you
have
guys
some spoilers in it. We'll have to warn people, but I think it's worth doing.
do you guys love how Jason is writing a check on my behalf? We will talk about Stranger Things chaos theories, even though
I
Morgan is
mean,
not caught up.
I'm doing you the service of not throwing them out there now because I could tell you, I could tell right now when I watched 11 die in that episode, it was rough, and I'm like, this is clearly where it's going. And then when what's Jonathan when Jonathan sprouted wings, did not see it coming at all. I mean, it was wild, and for the have Iron Man make a cameo. I mean, I don't know how they got Robert Downey Jr., but like, kudos to them. It
I'm
was
definitely
it
talking
was a
about season
wild
4 stuff because I have no idea what Jason's talking about.
it was a cameo fest. It was a cameo fest. No.
I mean, I don't know
Um
anything. Well, the L dying thing, maybe I know what you're referring to, but the other
I'm
stuff,
just kidding. None of
not a
those
clue.
things happen. I was just throwing
Ah,
ridiculous fake spoilers out. None of those things happen. Or do they? You won't know until you get caught up.
I won't genuinely. I was like Robert Downey Jr. Oh, maybe I do need to watch season 4.
As Iron Man, just in the 80s, that would be amazing.
The multiverse, dude, exists.
It's true.
The timeline is non-linear.
So, on that note, again, I implore the audience, tell us what you think. What is a cultural
Are you?
phenomenon?
Let's make it like a Twilight thing because Twilight was also a cultural phenomenon. Are you team Morgan or are you team Jason?
Team Morgan or Team Jason? What do you think? Is it Stranger Things or is it a Big Bang Theory? Which of those, or I guess both if you think both, but which of those is the better example of a
No. Okay,
cultural
no.
phenomenon?
Don't go misrepresenting the premise. Stranger
I'm not
is
misrepresenting
is
nothing.
is Stranger Things. If you're team Jason, Stranger Things is the greatest cultural phenomenon that has ever happened. And if you're on
Now
Team
who's misrepresenting?
Morgan,
I didn't
it
say
is
that. I
a
didn't say it was
cultural
the best.
phenomenon but is not more important than any of the others.
I didn't say it was the biggest cultural phenomenon. I just said it was a cultural
We
phenomenon.
literally,
More
hold on,
so
rewind the
than
tape.
Big Bang Theory.
Rewind the tape. We literally started the episode by saying, why aren't things cultural phenomenons like Stranger Things anymore? Literally how we started the episode.
We started the episode about how things don't end up as cultural phenomenons like they used to, and I cited things like Lost and Breaking Bad and Walking Dead,
Empirically
and then pointed
untrue.
about how it's been a long time.
Empirically untrue. Team Morgan,
Nope.
like, comment, and subscribe. Team Morgan.
Team Jason. You get to decide, and then next week one of us will be ejected from our seats somehow.
High stakes. High stakes.
All right. Thanks for joining us on this bonus episode, guys. And don't forget to like and share and subscribe. You know, do all the YouTube things. Or you can also follow us on your favorite podcast platforms because we're there as well. So tag along, tell a friend.
We are a cultural phenomenon.
We are. And you're on the ground floor. Bye, everyone.